Alright, let's take a look at G.I. Joe Compendium Volume 2. This is a follow-up to G.I. Joe Compendium Volume 1, which was put out by Skybound through Image, which has the rights to publish G.I. Joe comics. Now, Volume 1 was issues 1 to 50 of the now legendary classic Marvel Comics run, the initial run of G.I. Joe comics. And now this one is not going to be 50 to 100. This goes off into the other stuff. It does have the classic stuff, so let's take a look at what this has. This is the direct market exclusive cover. Pretty cool stuff. This is from one of the annuals. This collects G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue 51 to 78, and Yearbook 2 to 4. And also G.I. Joe Special Missions 1 to 15. People tend to forget there are spin-offs because the comic was so popular. We'll take a look at those. What I find interesting is that they have them in basically release order. So it'll be like 51, 52, then like Special Missions 1, then 53, then Special Missions 2, etc. And then I think at some point this was bi-monthly. I could be mistaken. So here are some images from the inside of the comic. What's awesome about all of this is that you're basically chronicling the lifespan of the toys as well. So like there's the space stuff and all that. So here it is in all its glory, ginormous. Look at this. Look how thick. Pretty cool stuff. This is the spine. Hammer, Wingham, Trimpe, Wagner. And here's the back, of course. The Hasbro emblem, the Skybound and Image emblems. Alright, so this is the one. This is not the hardcover one that was crowd funded. This is the kind of newsprint type of pages. I like these. I know some of you in the comments don't like this. I love it. Editor's note, the following is a G.I. Joe Special Missions preview story originally printed as a backup in G.I. Joe 50, which I thought was odd they didn't include in the last one, but here it is. So this is basically a preview of Special Missions, just to show you what that's going to be all about. So it's cool, like, you know, you had if you're into G.I. Joe, you had these two comics. This lady is has like a Gatling gun or something, and they have to defeat her. That's Stalker and Duke. You got Beachhead here, you know, on the plane and stuff. Looks like Lady J, not Scarlet. Pretty new, of course. Lady J came later in the comics, from Scarlet. And they trap someone in the bathroom. And so filler pages are with this star here. So G.I. Joe 51. And here comes the Thunder Machine, and introducing new, like, Dreadnoks. Like, you got Zorana here. Pretty cool stuff. Here's the Thunder Machine. Thunder Machine was awesome. It's probably my fit. Well, that and the Raven are two of my favorite Cobra vehicles. Got other ones. So, like, I mean, the comics probably were the best media for G.I. Joe. The cartoons are classic. I love them. But this is a very well-written comic book. Here's Sergeant Slaughter. Of course, he was in the comics as well. And the thing about the G.I. Joe comics, too, is they were also, I mean, they didn't lose sight of promoting the toys. So, like, you got whenever the toys came out, so here's the Thunder Machine, and everyone's like on the foot pegs and stuff. I had this for a while. I love that thing. Here's G.I. Joe 52, Cobra Commander. You got Quick Kick versus Storm Shadow. Pretty neat stuff. Here you have Serpentor. I think Serpentor still has the weird origin that he did in the cartoon, where he has like actual memories from the people of the past. So, first issue of G.I. Joe Special Missions came out, so now we're going to get into Yearbook. And Yearbook had some great stuff in it. let's take a look at who the... Oh, I guess they all have the credits here. As we know, some Image Boys later on had a hand in doing some of the art. So in the yearbooks, they would advertise the cartoons and have little articles and stuff. So it's like the struggle between G.I. Joe and Cobra continues every weekday. So at this point in the comics, G.I. Joe had the miniseries. It was the first one, and it was the Mass Device and Weather Dominator. So they came out year by year, and then I think in '85, all of a sudden they had the big cartoon. So here they're talking all about this cartoon, and they go through the different characters and stuff that will be in it. And here's an advertisement for the flag. It's really just an article about it rather than an advertisement, but this goes through like what's in it and all that stuff. Pretty neat. Advertised in the comic. And the adventure continues. So this is basically like a recap of what's happened. Pretty cool stuff. It's a long recap. But this gets you caught up to the point of the yearbook. That's pretty neat. Lots of great art here. A memo from Hawk. We've gone through another 12 months. There's Special Missions 1, first issue, and a new series. Pretty cool stuff. So these were like just meant to be missions that were separate from the comic, but still part of the continuity. You know, the continuity of the comic was pretty elaborate at this point. Why don't we just have, you know, some of the Joes are on missions, we have more cool adventures that way. Pretty neat stuff. So yeah, at this point, it's Herb Trimpe is doing the art. Yeah, this is a great trip down memory lane. And the thing is that, like, you know, the new G.I. Joe comic, there's two of them. There's one that continues from this, from Larry Hama, which is awesome. And there's also the Skybound version, the Energon Universe one. This is Rod Wingham. There's Roadblock, Scarlet. There's Baroness. It's great to see all these characters in their heyday. Because, I mean, they did have an elaborate cast. It's pretty cool to see all of them. I do miss the days when you can read the comic and there's, like, cool stuff that you probably want to get. And so, you know, it's available in toy stores. This issue is another sort of, like, silent issue. I guess that was so popular, they tried to recreate it here. So here's, like, Scarlet and Storm Shadow, who at some point joined the G.I. Joe team. So they're rescuing Snake Eyes. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, the whole thing's silent issue. They're going through. Although that dog would have made noise, and this bow would have made noise. Not so silent. Like, they're not exactly covert because they're beating up all these main people. And here's this disguised person. And here's a Baroness tied up in her bra and panties. That's kind of risque for the time. And here's more article about G.I. Joe on television going into Season 2, which is really Season 4 if you count the miniseries of Season 1 and 2. But hey, no one says that. Here are pinups, pretty neat. And the adventure continues, super recap of G.I. Joe. And here's a Serpentor. My dinner was Serpentor. What is it? Frozen pizzas and, like, donuts and pop. So Serpentor goes through his memory of the people, the DNA that he has They get really more into it in that comic than they did in the cartoon. The cartoon, they use the DNA of all these other masters, and the idea is that he has their tactical knowledge, but like they get more into it in that comic. They don't really have flashbacks. So here's the new Cobra Commander in the cartoons. This armor was made to hold his transformation back from the snake from the movie. And at that point, it was the DIC cartoon, the DiC cartoon. Special Missions 3, Burnout, all these vehicles here. You know, I was saying with the new G.I. Joe comic, their characters are like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind getting this, but they're not making like 3/4 inch figures of these guys, nor are they making Black Series or whatever they call it, the big 6-inch guys. Here's the Pogo, the most awkward Cobra vehicle ever, but it was heavily promoted in animated commercials and all that stuff. Here's the Pogo. Special Missions. The Raven, pretty neat. Has a little plane that comes out of it. Pretty cool stuff. Here are the Dreadnoks. There's a big gantry with a spaceship on it. Yeah, it's cool to see all these toys back in action here. Here's undercover stuff. And I love that these things have a ton. It's like Compendium 1 went through a lot of years, but between Compendium 1 and 2, this is like a large chunk of G.I. Joe in its heyday. It's pretty neat to look at, and go through all these characters and stuff. There's Chuckles. Yeah, Chuckles became very popular. He has no lines in the movie. Here's the Pogo again, heavily promoted. Piece of crap. All that stuff, supposedly when we were kids, it was rumored that it was all just like spec designs and stuff for the American Army, and it was all rejected, but they just used them in G.I. Joe. I don't know how true that is. Lots of ninja stuff here. G.I. Joe 67, Lady J punching some dude. Yeah, G.I. Joe had a very diverse cast. Pretty cool stuff, and it influenced other toy lines, knockoff toy lines, like the Bronze Bombers was an all-black G.I. Joe figure line, and Lanard's Decor had a lot of guys that were dark-skinned natives from South America. I remember that. I have some. The only Indian guys, because there were no Indians in G.I. Joe. I would have known that. But in Lanard's Decor, they had a guy named Bengala. I have like multiple different colors of that guy. So yeah, big influence. I mean, like, when Hasbro went on to do Cops, the main leader of the good guys was black, which might have been a breakthrough at the time. But I didn't think anything of it at the time. But yeah, they did go for diversity, not just in color and creed, but also in like gender as well. I mean, like Lady J is one of my favorite G.I. Joes. Just going through the rest of this real quick. I hope you like going through this with me. It's pretty cool stuff. Lots of nostalgic G.I. Joe stuff. If you've haven't visited these characters in a long time, it's a real treat. So yeah, here's some file cards at the end. Here's more about the cartoon, just a recap. So yeah, pretty great. This is $86.99 Canadian and $64.99 US. So this is around on Amazon and other channels. If you like going through this with me, please give a like to this video. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Lots of great comic book stuff on here. So until next time, take care.